Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Today we're going to try and help out a viewer, John. John is actually in South Africa, and he sent me a note that said that he's having a problem with his Penn Jigmaster in that the anti-reverse doesn't lock down when he's fighting a fish, which means that the anti-reverse is failing. And he took it to his local tackle shop, and the advice they gave him was to trash the reel. Well, if you know me and you've watched my repair videos, you know that that's about the last thing anybody wants to do. But I'm going to take a Jigmaster, and this one's kind of beat up, but it'll show you the point. We're going to go over the common failure parts of the anti-reverse if the anti-reverse is not working, and what to do to restore that function if that's a problem for you. So the first thing I'm going to do is take off the side plate. I've been loosening up that one screw take-apart system. You have to pull that out. You'll see that there's some movement in that screw. You have to pull that out to disengage it from the side plate, and once you do, turn the side plate and then you can pull it off, and that's what you'll see underneath here. Now, we're not going to rebuild this entire reel. We're going to use this for a demonstration to show John where the failure points are. He can then identify them and go get the parts and restore the reel. So once we take that side plate off, we can then disassemble it to get to the bridge, because the bridge is where all of the action is happening on the anti-reverse. It's a kind of a self-contained unit there, with the exception of the gear sleeve, and we'll show you what to do there. So as you notice, I use a little parts tray. It's the bottom of a milk jug. I use that to keep all the pieces and parts so I know where to find them when I go to put the reel back together. And I use a protective glove, because when I take pieces and parts off, oftentimes they're coated in grease and lubricants and everything else under there, and I just don't want to take the risk of having that stuff get inside my skin if I don't have to. So for no other reason than that. I don't wear a protective glove on my right hand. Some folks have asked. I just don't have the dexterity to be able to work through the pieces and parts and still grip the tools with this glove. So if any of you have thoughts on that in terms of what alternatives are out there, I'd appreciate that as well. But this one tends to take all the grease anyway. All right, so we've taken the handle off. You saw me back off the star drag adjuster to push the handle out rather than try and rock it. And we're going to take the star drag adjuster off now. And there's one more piece. There's a ferrule here that are the external parts to this reel. So then we have 4 screws that hold on the bridge, and like I said, this bridge is where all of that anti-reverse action is happening. So we're going to go take that off. We're going to take I'm going to loosen them all. I've got my hand cupped behind here, because when the 4th one gets loose, there's springs that are going to push this bridge out, and we're going to push it out too. So I just like to capture all of those pieces in my hand rather than have those pieces fly all over the place. So I'm loosening the 4. You can kind of feel when it goes, and there it is. You can see that the bridge is slipping below the side plate now, and then that simply pulls out. So here's the internal workings of the gear. You have the jack, you have a yoke behind it, you have the spool gear. All of that stuff sits up top. And again, because we're working on this about the anti-reverse, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the other stuff. So before we go to the actual anti-reverse mechanism, just a point. If you're fighting a fish and the spool continues to run backwards, the ones that we're going to talk about here is why the anti-reverse dog is not holding. But check your drags. If there's worn or broken or missing drags, that can cause the same situation where your spool does not hold as you go to fight the fish. So we're going to take the drag stacks off. Sometimes they come off all together. Sometimes you have to kind of take them off separately. In this case, this is a reel that's used heavily, and it's had the drags replaced on numerous occasions. This is one that goes with a charter fleet that I repair the reels for. But it's a good example, and this one came back in because it's a little tight. Something's skipping in there. So we figured we'd take a look at it right now. All right, so here's a problem with this one. That's not probably unlike what John is experiencing here. So in this case, I've got a loose pinion gear. I probably have a broken. I do have a broken shaft on this one. So let's just kind of proceed. I'm going to just hit this real quick with a little bit of cleaner so that you can see the pieces and parts. In that case, this is a hardware store equivalent of WD-40. Just trying to get a little bit of the grease out of this so you can see how this operates. So here's the 3 common failure points then on the Penn Jigmaster if your anti-reverse is not working. This is your spring, your anti-reverse dog, and your gear sleeve, and it would work like this. You can see it turning, probably hear it a little bit again. So how does it not function? Well, number one cause is the spring gets loose. I just pop the spring here, and you'll see that it doesn't put the pressure on the anti-reverse dog. That anti-reverse dog does not intersect with the teeth. And when that's the case, what happens is it also backspins. So that's an issue there. So how do you fix that, John? If you're out there, just simply take the spring. I use a little screwdriver. You can use your fingers, fingernail, whatever works best. Just reset the spring right underneath the little arm that comes off of that, and that restores your anti-reverse dog. Okay. Second one, that just helped me there. It was like on cue. Second one is this anti-reverse dog fell off. Happens. It doesn't happen much, but becomes disconnected. There's a couple of other things that cause this when we get to the dog. You can see that this one's in relatively good shape. It has a flat side to it and a kind of a squared up side here. And with a lot of wear on the reel, you'll either see wear on the bottom or you'll see wear on this. If that's the case, you do have some play here. And what you can do is you can file it to get it square again. So just run a little file, run that along the bottom, square that up. It doesn't take much, it's a brass piece. Same thing here. If you notice that it's circular or got an arc in it or somehow other reason it's not flat, do the same thing. Just run some file on that and you can save that dog. So then what you do on this one then is once that comes into play, you can reload this by putting the hole on the shaft, setting the dog down, and then doing what we just did with the spring, which is reloading it. So I'm trying to do this for the camera. It's kind of doing it upside down. But you can reset the dog here, and then just run that spring underneath, and you'll be fine. There we go. So we're properly set again, and you can see how it's operating well. You don't have to worry about that spring too much. In the side plate, there's 2 grooves here. And depending on the reel setup, that spring is going to sit in this groove to protect it and to keep it straight. So all you want to do when you're setting this spring up here is just make sure it's straight. That's what I'm going to do now, just to show you. I did it for the camera and I didn't have it quite the way I would like it to be. So just make sure it's straight. You can see it better here, where it's straight like that. And again, that's going to ride in the recess. So that's 2. The first one is that the spring is off. The second one is that the dog is off or the dog is worn. The third one is actually the gear sleeve. So the teeth that this dog intersect with need to be square, not missing, not worn. So the best way to find out if that's actually happening is turn the bridge upside down. Then I got a little bit of junk on here. And just rotate this, looking at the teeth to make sure they're all there first, and then looking at it face on. And what I can see here, and we saw it before, is there's a lot of play in this particular gear shaft. That shouldn't be. I'm sorry, the gear sleeve. that shouldn't be where it can go in and out like this. There's something broken in there. I think I know what it is. We'll try and take it off and show you. But make sure that the teeth are square, that they're intact, that they're not worn or chipped or lost, because that will cause that same backing. So then the last piece then, if we have that problem on here, and again, this is a high use reel from a charter boat fleet, and this happens quite a bit where these teeth get worn down, and what you want to do then is replace the gear sleeve. So to do that, there's a pin that rides on that gear sleeve. You push the pin through. In some cases you need to tap it through. I use a little pin to get in there, and you can see how that pushes the pin out on the other side. And you can remove your little piece. Grab a pliers. I use a needle nose pliers for a lot of that. Be careful, it is a soft metal. Put that into your bin, and then you can pull the sleeve off. And in this case, I knew this is what the case was. This is broken. So there should be an extension on here that is similar to the groove below. There should be a groove, extension, and another groove, and an extension, and a pin would ride here on the top of this. Unfortunately, that's stuck in here. So that broke off, and when that breaks off, the whole bridge needs to be replaced. So we're just going to pretend now that that wasn't the case. And what you would do is you would go out and you would get yourself a new gear sleeve. Just trying to see if I happen to have one in here. I do. So you can go order the new gear sleeve. You can see how crisp. Let's take it out of the bag. And I keep a lot of these on hand because I know that this is a problem with this one. And you can see how sharp and defined the ridges of that sleeve are. You can see on the front, and you can see how square that is. So if you got a new one and if this post was correct, you would simply reinstall by slipping this over, putting the new pin through, realigning the anti-reverse dog, making sure that the spring was down on that to control that. And then you're on your way, and you can see how that works here. So John, those are the main failing points. The spring, make sure it's attached well. The dog, make sure that it's got a flat side on the two sides that are here. And that all-important gear sleeve, make sure that these also mate well with that anti-reverse dog so that they hold when it clicks in there, so that it doesn't backpedal on you. So that's it. That's how you repair it. Then you would simply reverse the process, and we're not going to do it here because sleeve, I'm going to save that sleeve, but you would put your gear sleeves back on. You would put your main gear on. You would put your drags together on there, and you would simply push down on this to reinstall the main gear. And here's an example of this. This is a spare one that I have that's been done properly. So we'll just show you the gear went on. The drags went on inside, alternating fabric and metal drags, eared washer in the middle. And then we would simply turn around with this, push down on that sleeve, the spool gear, insert that, pull down on it, and then you'll see that it snaps in place here. There's two studs, plastic studs that would align that. You'd go around to this side, you'd put your 4 screws back in, and then reinstall your handle assembly. But I did want to go over for you, John. You don't have to trash this reel. The parts are available. It's an easy enough fix that you could do that, and I believe you're going to save your reel from the trash. So with that, I hope that's been helpful. If you guys have enjoyed that, please like it. If you want to see more, please subscribe. Thank you for your continued interest in this channel. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle.